the city jail, the $250,000 there will be used for stabilization of the building until we can build the new jail.
How much for stabilization?
At the city jail, we're requesting $250,000. Historically, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've been spending that amount of money on the jail for capital improvements, but we're trying to stabilize the jail and to keep the jail open and operational until we can, replace the jail.
And how much money do you have in there for replacing the jail this year?
Mr. Winters has that.
And is it ready to go? What's the status of it? What would this $2.2 million be used for?
Good afternoon, Madam Vice President, Council members, John Winter, Special Capital Projects. We are showing $2 million in the FY10 package and $8 million in the FY11 package. We will probably want to accelerate that to combine those two numbers. The target is to have the jail improvement project completed by the end of 2013. And so we are looking to move into design. We're programming the project right now, trying to finalize the size of the project, which we think we have done. We've got to go back in and revise the planning study and a few other documents, but we want to try to move into the design phase as quickly as we can. We see an opportunity to do that possibly this summer, early fall, so we can move that quickly. So the project is moving forward. And it's $137 million, which I believe is the total shown.
Okay. 137 is what it's going to cost.
600, right? 137,600,000. That's for the total project.
And your, what size jail are you doing? And where? Are you building on the same site?
Same site. And basically, we're adding what would be probably referred to as a mid-rise primary facility that would probably have between 500 and 600 new cells/beds in it. We're going to salvage 3 of the dormitories in what's called the annex of the old jail, but the majority of the existing jail will be torn down once the new jail facility is ready to go in 2013.
How many beds the current jail has?
It has a rated capacity of 882. 882 rated capacity.
What size capacity are we building?
Right now, the proposed rated capacity would be 1,032. That would consist of 572 new cells/beds, and then we would renovate 360 in the EF and G dormitories and 100 in the annex. We'd be renovated 460.
And how many inmates do we have on average in there?
The average is between 12 and 1,500. And that's where you have what we call flexible ability to double bunk. The current facility double bunks between 50% and 75% of their rated capacity to match that. And we're looking at a double bunking of probably in the 50% range right now to hit the high end of what we're encountering with population here at this time. One of the key components are the alternative programs, which have been identified as an opportunity to control that incoming population better. There's a perception, which is fairly realistic, that there are a fair number of folks in the jail who ought not to be there. And the alternative programs are that solution. So we're going to have a parallel track for the next 2 to 3 years, developing these alternative programs more thoroughly so that we can hopefully flatline the incoming increase. In other words, hopefully there won't be an increase in what we're experiencing.
Is there anything in the budget for these alternatives that you're talking about, parallel building? I didn't see anything in the budget to support that.
We're working on that right now with Justice Services, trying to develop what that entails in terms of whether that's a mental health facility, what facilities do we have that could be converted, and possibly a portion of that 137 could be contributing to that. That's something we've got to identify. We're at the front end of that process to develop. We have in the community-based corrections plan, for example, there are 8 alternative programs identified, 3 of which are fairly well engaged at this point, 5 of which are not. So we're trying to research how to get all of those more aggressively active in dealing with that incoming population. And there's a multitude of opportunities there to hold that population increase down.
I just want to make sure I understood correctly. So we're building a jail without the double bunking of the new beds. They would hold around 10,000 or 1,000 folks total.
What you have is what's called rated capacity, and the current facility is rated at 882.
Well, because we have the triple beds in there.
Right, we're double bunking up to 75, 76% is where we're getting up over the 1,500 mark right now. So what we're looking at is a rated facility of 1032, but then going to double bunking at 50%, which gets you up over 1,500. We feel like that's a reasonable double bunking approach, which is fair and also tries to deal with the very high cost for these types of facilities.
But the total number of beds would be 1,032.
1032 on a rated basis, right? We're projecting the capacity of 50% would be, I think, 1,548 at 50% double bunking.
So, are we building a jail that we can house up to 1,500, or are we building a jail that can house 1,000?
It's rated at 1032, and then you have what's called a flexible component to that. Let's just say you are going to double bunk at 30%, then that would be 300 on top of the 1032, so you'd be at 1,300, or you may be at 25%. Again, it goes back to what we're hoping are going to be very effective alternative programs where we can essentially flatline any growth from what we're seeing between 12 and 1,500 today to actually starting to decrease
Let me ask you
that
something.
population.
You guys tell us so much information, it's hard for me to figure out whether or not you answer my question. If the headlines in the Richmond Times-Dispatch would say that the jail is overcrowded, and what you're planning to build, what would be the number of persons, one over that number, that would be exceeding the capacity of this jail? Is that 15, or is it 1,000?
Well,
32.
it's not easy to answer that question. I think you could, I'm trying to help you through this. At the high end of what they're experiencing right now, which is around 76% double bunking, that would get you up to almost 1,800 people in the jail facility, which we hope we never see that kind of number. And what we don't want to do is to double bunk at that high of a percentage. We're hoping to double bunk at a much lower percentage. Right now, the low end is about 50% of the 882 number. What we're saying is we're hoping we never get above the 50% and actually through the alternative program start pushing it well below the 50%.
But if you needed to get above 50%, based on the facility that you're building, you could double bunk the beds and not be over capacity up to 18.
Well, yeah, that's a ballpark
Okay.
number, right? We're not that far down that road, but that's what I keep referring to, the flexible component of this, whether it's 30%, 50%, or somewhere down the road if it were to get worse.
So someone asked me the question, we have a city jail, and we're trying to keep people out of jail and not put more people in jail. Are we building a facility that adds additional 500 additional beds to our capacity, or are we building a jail that is going to reduce the number of beds that we have? I mean, this is my Achilles heel, okay? Third graders, not reading grade level, we build a jail bed for them. We plan to build a jail bed for them. This prison, the state system does, okay? So my question is whether or not we're planning to build. If someone was to ask me, Ellen, this new jail that we're building, are we building a jail at the same capacity that we had, that should be where we are right now, or are we adding 500 jail beds in the city of Richmond? What's the appropriate answer?
200.
Probably it ought to again go back to what is the rated capacity of the facility. And the current facility is rated at 882. What we're proposing and what we're working through right now is the proper size for the facility. And we think the proper size would be to add 572 new beds/cells. That's a new number. What that does in the current plan is it creates a facility rated at 1032. So you've added from 882 to 1032, less than 200 increase.
All right.
The population today varies, the numbers that we're seeing vary between 1,200 and over 1,500. So we're trying to keep the size of that facility down as low as we possibly can. What you're saying is a very valid point, because a lot of people have pointed out, if you build it big enough, they'll keep filling it up. And so we're trying to not build any larger facility than we need, and we're trying to look at how to manage that incoming population through alternative programs to hopefully start keeping it from increasing at all, but also then to start driving it down. And that's why we refer to anything above the rated capacity as the flexible number. We get to 2013, optimistically, maybe we only need to double bump 25%, which would be a great improvement. And we have that flexibility. We don't have to go to 50%.
Madam Chair, I have a question. Can you tell me how many inmates in the jail right now today? Because I was told that in order to get the inmates off the floor, they're triple bunking them at this present time.
Yes, we've heard that in our meetings, that's correct.
So you don't know the total population right now?
The numbers that we've seen are ranging from the low in the 1,200 range to over 1,500. And unfortunately, the number seems to be in the higher range typically.
But if you're triple bunking today and then you only plan to double bunk in the future, it still seems like it's about the same number of people that we're talking about.
Well, the way the numbers work out is through the double bunking, we can accommodate the high end of what we're experiencing today and see over the next couple of years from a very slight increasing number to when we get to the new facility. So the way the numbers work out, and part of it does relate to the fact that we're adding a little bit less than 200 new beds technically to it. And so if you're adding, say, 180 and you 50% double bunk, that's 270 technically that you would have space for. But the numbers work that way, but we look at that flexible component is very important because we do not want to build a 2,000 bed facility. We do not want to build such a large facility.
Thank you. So are you hoping that by the time you build this new jail, that you have received funding and that you have other alternative methods in place so that you will get to 1,800 population in jail?
We hope we never get to that.
Residents or whatever. What you're hoping is that these alternative methods will drive it down.
Drive it down.
Are you getting funding for those alternative methods?
What we
I know
see.
Ms. Robertson asked.
What we see happening is the target is to have the new improved jail facility ready by the end of 2013.
Right.
From this point forward, we see a parallel project of these alternative programs because they really need to be identified, they need to be developed and implemented. And we use the expression in a lot of our meetings when we hand the keys over to the sheriff for the improved facility, we want those alternative programs to be very active at that point so that hopefully we're even driving the population down at that point, but at least managing it's not increasing anymore. So we see this as a 3-year program to get those alternative programs really up and running, and we've got to figure out what that's going to cost. We don't know the answer.
So at this point, in terms of the alternative programs, we're talking about them, but we have not done anything. And maybe we've identified some, but we have not done anything in terms of funding them to begin to get them off the ground.
In fairness, there are several underway. As I mentioned before, there's several more that have been identified that are not effective at this point. This is a major undertaking. It involves the judiciary and a whole lot of folks to come together on this for this to really work well. So it's going to take time, but to my knowledge, we don't have any real funding identified at this point for that.
Okay.
Right. But it is something we will be developing, wanting to work over the next 3 years to bring that forward.
sure you'll get lots of questions during this process of getting this jail built. You will all make good progress. Thank you.
Okay.
I want to move forward now to the